Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. Class of 2024 signing day recruiting capsules continuing here. We are talking about one of the last members of the recruiting class, certainly the last offensive lineman in the recruiting class. That is Gabe VanSickle, Michigan native, former Northwestern commit. He has signed with the Buckeyes as expected. No drama there. Once he flipped over to the Buckeyes in the fall, we didn't expect much movement on that front, and so that's kind of just how it played out. Buckeyes, maybe one short on the offensive line than they hoped, but VanSickle was a nice late addition. They kind of traded him out for Mark Nave. Toledo Central Catholic. That was kind of the move that was made. I get it, because here's what I like about VanSickle. He is he's what they call a swing lineman. So he can play tackle, he can play guard. Again, he's a kind of a tackle by trade, but has the frame at 6'5", where, when you're trying to juggle your pieces around, you need to get your 5 best offensive linemen on the field. He can kind of give you some flexibility there. Mark Nave, who I actually like as a pure guard prospect, is a pure guard prospect, and you kind of already had that with Devontae Armstrong. So this gave them a little bit more versatility, a little more flexibility up front. But VanSickle's in, Kevin. It's a good late flip from the Wildcats.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a kid who was committed to Northwestern. He picked up an offer from Stanford. I mean, he certainly had the academic side down. Some of your smartest guys are on the offensive line. You see, these big, big dumb uglies don't know. They're, you have some smart dudes on the offensive line. VanSickle's there. Coopersville, Michigan, which I had to look up, and that is actually, there is a little bit of land west of Grand Rapids, and Coopersville is there. So, maybe not playing against, certainly not playing Detroit Metro League competition there, but he's somebody that you can sit there and you can put in the tape, and I'll put in his highlights here in a second, and you can see the pieces there. You can see that he has the athletic ability that maybe he's not going against the greatest competition as of yet, but it all sorts out. I mean, not everybody's the Armstrong twins playing at St. Ed's and coming out of a football factory like that. You have to cast a wide net, and they did in picking up VanSickle.
Yeah, I think we did his commitment podcast episode, and I think that's when you told me we were trying to figure out where exactly Coopersville was, and you told me, "Oh yeah, it's west of Grand Rapids." West of Grand Rapids, there's nothing west. There's water.
Yeah,
it's a lake there. If you go a little further west, eventually you get to Chicago. But I don't think there's anything west of Grand Rapids. But sure enough, I was a little arrogant. I was relying on my 5th grade Highland Elementary School Geography B championship that I won, and I guess I've become out of practice on my geography. So, yeah, it's not your typical area that Ohio State recruits. So that was interesting to me, finding that out when we were talking about him when he was getting ready to flip. And a nice pickup for the Buckeyes. Again, offensive tackle by trade, but very, very athletic kid. Again, sends that guy flying. But good body type. He's 6'5", he's 285. So he's like the perfect weight that you want guys coming in at. You don't want guys coming in at 255, 260. You don't want guys coming in at 325, 330, generally speaking. So 285 is a great entry level weight. He's light on his feet. He can move. He gets out to the second level. Got enough coordination and smarts to kind of connect on those tough. When you're trying to pick off a linebacker or a safety, you got to be coordinated. You're not just mauling the guy directly in front of you. So he's able to do that. Good feet, good pass protection guy. Yes, I mean, competition. We're gonna talk about that. That's gonna be one of the question marks. Grand Rapids is a big metro area. It's not a tiny little town by any stretch of the imagination. So he's not playing out totally in the middle of nowhere. He's playing some decent programs out that way, but yeah, it's not playing Detroit metro area. It's not playing maybe like a a GCL Cincinnati type of thing, but good enough competition to not, I think, make you scared. But again, one of those guys who seems to love to finish his blocks. All the guys in this O-line class, I think, are pretty good finishers. They're tough kids. And again, we know he's smart. He really stuck with Northwestern through a lot. I mean, he committed there early. Fitzgerald gets let go and was sticking with that for a while even. And Ohio State was able to kind of convince him like, hey, why don't you come over here? So we'll see like where he settles in. I think for me, that's kind of the thing right now is like, okay, is he going to play left tackle? He's going to play right tackle. Are you going to just put him at guard for like where as a swing guy with versatility, which is what they're recruiting him as? He's ultimately, you can cross train these guys, but they can only play one position at a time. So like, where does he actually slot in on a 2 or 3 deep? If there's an injury here or an injury there, is that his spot or is that an Armstrong twin spot? Is that, that's what I'm going to be fascinated about is kind of where they start him.
Yeah, I think that you have to, I would want to see him at tackle because I look back at the previous class and it felt very guard heavy. And I don't think you can have enough tackle bodies. And as we've talked about, it's a lot easier to be able to be trained at tackle and slide into guard. You can't necessarily, you have to have the body to be able to slide out. And, there's a lot of difference in how much space you're playing in and everything else. And if everything I've seen out of the tape and I've heard about VanSickle is true, I would rather reach for tackle and if then you have to sit there and play him at guard, that's fine. I would prefer to do that rather than the other way around and then maybe have to do a lot more refresher to get him ready for tackle. But that's just me. They don't consult me on these decisions.
I think that's a good mindset is kind of like, okay, prove to me you can't play tackle first, and then we'll worry about that. Like, put all these guys who are considered capable of playing offensive tackle out at offensive tackle and say, if you prove to us you can't play out here, you mean foot speed, whatever, agility is not quite where it needs to be, then you move them inside. But I would tend to agree. Especially with what they've got coming out, like the next couple of years, like you're going to lose Fryer after next year. Simmons in theory has 2 more years left, so we can kind of see how that goes. But, behind those guys, not a lot. And like we saw it in spring practice, like whenever the 2s were out there on the offensive line, the tackles were getting really beat up by the Ohio State defensive line. I don't know if I've ever heard a head coach and offensive line coach basically come out in the middle of the season and say, yeah, we'd play more guys if we had more guys that were earning playing time, is essentially what they were saying was we don't like what we're seeing out of our 2s. And so usually even if you don't necessarily like what you're seeing out of your 2s, you kind of say, well, they're young, they're developing this, that, it's like, no, we don't trust our 2s right now. So there is an opportunity for these guys coming in that can play tackle to get into the 2 deep. So we'll see, with VanSickle, that might be a taller task than with like an Ian Moore, but we'll see how that goes. Again, I agree. I would start him at tackle. I think you have guards. I think you have guys you can slide down a guard. We may be talking about Josh Fryer sliding down the guard. Who knows? That may be a thing to get their best 5 on the field this year. So, I do like the idea of starting him at tackle. But Gabe VanSickle in the fold, the late flip from Northwestern. Buckeyes hold on and get the signature. No drama here down the stretch on that one. And looking like it's going to be a 4-man offensive line class for Ohio State. And then we'll see what they do in the transfer portal. Obviously, Chase Basantis is out there. And, we'll see who else maybe matriculates their way into the transfer portal here in the next few weeks. I do think they'll be looking for a portal body. So see how that search goes. But we will get on to new and additional portal, or not portal, capsules from recruiting. Got portal in the brain. Recruiting capsules for the 2024 signing class throughout the day as they roll in. So appreciate everyone watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.